My campaign against drug will not stop.
The Philippines. The Philippines was ranked 4th as Asia's illegal drug source. As of 2016, Duterte declared that there are 3 million drug users in the Philippines. This makes 2.9% of the country's population. Duterte's drug war campaign started on July 2016. A year later, in the month of November, there were 21,999 deaths during the campaign. Because of the increasing number of deaths, Philippines is labeled 4th as the most dangerous country. According to the chart, 70,193 anti-drug operations were conducted. 118,287 drug personalities were arrested, and 1,308,078 surrenders were facilitated. 18.92 billion pesos worth of illegal drugs were seized, and 4,747 barangays were declared drug-free.
But what causes people to engage in drugs? One factor cannot predict if a person gets addicted to drugs, but a person affected by multiple factors has a higher chance of becoming addicted. These factors include one's biology, environment, and performance. In the context of biology, drug dependency is hereditary as well. As for one's environment, they may be exposed to drug user in the area, causing their curiosity to expand, or peer pressure from their friends, forcing them to resort to drugs. In terms of performance, some use drugs to do well in work or school, to keep them awake, energetic, and active. Other reason why people use drugs: isolation and mental illness. These two usually go together, meaning when someone doesn't feel acceptance or belongingness, they feel isolated and alone, allowing them to be prone to mental illness such as anxiety or depression. That's when they would want to use drugs, giving them the feeling happiness temporarily, making them escape from the pain, the sadness, or maybe reality. If that's the case, then there are no addicts in this world. They are just victims of their own world and are of this world.
If addicts are victims, then, does addiction really exist, or just merely an illusion of our minds? Through the years, rats are being used as experiments, locked up in cages alone, waiting to be used as an experiment. Those rats are being tested by psychologists through a Skinner box. A Skinner box has a little lever on the side for food or electric shock, and the floor made of metal for electric shocks as well. A rat is put inside. When the lever is pushed, one tiny pellet of food comes out, one at a time. But when the rat wants more, they get electric shocks through the metal floor. Results have shown that in just 15 minutes, the rats push the lever 500 times again and again for electrocution instead of food. The psychologists thought it would be great to test drug abuse through the Skinner box. They replaced electric shocks for an injection so that whenever the rat pushed the lever, the drug would inject in them. As expected, the rat pushed the lever often. It consumed large amounts of heroin, morphine, amphetamine, cocaine, and other drugs. The results seem to prove that drugs are indeed addictive.
Until Bruce K. Alexander came to the rescue. He thought that rats are social, sexual, and industrious beings as well as human beings. Putting them in solitary confinement would do the same to humans. Plus, Staying confined in the Skinner box with pushing the levers all you can do is, of course, all you would do. So he and his colleagues thought of the rat park experiment. They literally built a park for rats. Everything was provided: food, shelter, toys, wood chips, and of course, rats of both sexes. As for the water, they put two kinds of water in the park. One was clean, the other was combined with drugs. The rats chose to drink the clean water instead of the drugged water. This proved that addiction is just an illusion of the mind. It does not exist. Even drug addicts don't exist. Remember, they're just victims isolated in their own cage.
If that's the case, maybe what we can do is to change our mindset. We saw from the research presented that the sadness from isolation was the reason why the rat tortured itself and just decided to kill itself. We can think of the cage as a representation of our minds. We are our own prison. We are the ones who create the monster who pulls us down. It is our choice if we isolate ourselves on our own cages. In the research, Alexander's solution was to build a place where the rats can be with the other rats, to have a life where it won't feel alone and it can be happy. It no longer needed to consume drugs because it wanted to live. If we compare the situation of the rats to ours, a person won't even think of using drugs. If everyone will feel like a part of something, if everyone will feel like they have roles to fill, then maybe no one would engage in drugs. Meaning, addiction is really just a myth. It's not real. People just think they're addicted. It's just to escape the cages they're in because it's the only way out. We must destroy this stigma in order to end drug addiction. The best way to do this is to be aware of each other's mental health. Let's train our minds to look at the positive sides of life. The solution must come from within. Let's not depend our happiness to other people.
But since there is no way to stop the use of illegal drugs, there are other ways to prevent it. Just telling your friend that you're concerned can be a big help. Your friend may not want to talk about it, and the effects on drugs on the brain may keep him from hearing you or acting on your advice. Suggest that he speak to a trusted adult who will keep it confidential. Maybe there's a family friend who could help. Turn to a professional for immediate help if the problem looks to be too big for you to handle alone, or if you're worried your friend may have suicidal thoughts that he could act on. For parents, know your teen's activities. Pay attention to your teen's whereabouts. Find out what adult supervised activities your teen is interested in and encourage him or her to get involved. Establish rules and consequences. Explain your family rules, such as leaving a party where drug use occurs and not riding in a car with a driver who's been using drugs. If your teen breaks the rules, consistently enforce consequences. Know your teen's friends. If your teen's friends use drugs, your teen might feel pressured to experiment too. Keep track of prescription drugs. Take an inventory of all prescription and over-the-counter medications in your home. Provide support. Offer praise and encouragement when your teen succeeds. A strong bond between you and your teen might help prevent your teen from using drugs. Set a good example. If you drink, do so in moderation. Use prescription drugs as directed. Don't use illicit drugs.